day 21 of 365 days of meditation. Today's meditation was about an hour long. I was up at 4 a.m. to do it. I probably could have gone a little bit longer, but I sort of got interrupted from some noise at one point from the external environment and kind of brought me out. One thing I always try to do in meditation is never come out abruptly. I always try to sort of ease out, and I do have a practice that I follow always at the end of each meditation. It sort of evolves a little bit over time, but it's more or less the same practice, and that's how I come out of meditation. So when I sort of came out abruptly from the noise, I just settled back in for another 15 minutes or so, and that way I could come out in a calm state. I did the usual, kind of sat there in silence and darkness until the body starts to feel a little bit kind of light and I feel a little sort of detached from the body. And then I started to suggest some mantras, and then I was asking some questions because the body was lighting up in the same fashion, where it feels like there's sort of this lighting up of the nervous system through one side of the body, passes through and gets very intense when it hits the middle, like through the spinal cord, and then sort of passes through the other side of the body and then leaves. And I've had this happen before meditating. Seems to primarily happen when I meditate in this room in the early hours. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's just because it's the early hours and that's just what happens. But anyway, last time this was happening about a year ago when I was meditating daily, I got really creeped out by the event. So when I meditated in this room today again and it happened, I started posing some questions, which sometimes I'll do in meditation to see if I'll get an answer to something that I don't know the answer to. And so I was posing questions like, what is this sensation? What does this mean? Is there something in the room with me? I'll try just anything sort of random that pops into mind. Another one that I'll try sometimes when I'm trying to figure something out is just like, when I'm uncertain and I don't even know the question to ask, I'll just say, show me. So I tried that as well. Nothing happened. Usually when I'll ask these questions, I'll ask like one at a time or one or two questions that are kind of along the same line of questioning. And then I'll just stop and sit silent for another 5, 10, 15 minutes, wait to see if there's an answer. And the answer usually comes in the form of just kind of like a thought that pops into head. But I'm not actively thinking, it just sort of shows up. So I tried a bunch, nothing happened, and then I was reminded of the fact that the last time I was feeling this way in this room, it was distressing. There was definitely a lot of fear around it. So I asked the question, what am I afraid of? And immediately felt the whole sort of nervous system, that same sensation, the body light up. And I thought, okay, I'm onto something here. So I asked it again, and then I just waited and kind of probed, some questions like, what would it be like to live without fear, to be fearless, to be brave, to be courageous? Different words, but none of them really seemed to articulate what I wanted, asking these questions or suggesting these ideas of bravery or courage or fearlessness. So those weren't really hitting any chords. So I just kind of waited, just sat there, went back into stillness, and started to feel like I was detaching from the body a little bit again. And then something sort of shot into my mind, and that was of a time when I was a kid, and from childhood definitely through my teenage years, and suffering in silence with fairly significant mental health challenges, anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, obsessive compulsive disorder. And at that time in my life, it slowly started to build up over time, and I always tried to figure out what I was doing and why I was thinking, behaving this way, and I didn't have an answer, and I couldn't quite I'm creating my model of the world at that point in my life, and I'm not able to map it to anything I see anyone else doing or the behaviors of other people or anything I've saw on TV or learned in school or anything like that at that time. And so it was distressing, but also felt impossible to talk to anyone about it, because talking about it just made me feel like I was a crazy person. And that did not feel good. So I didn't. And years upon years upon years passed by, and, it got worse with time. And so my mental health got worse with time. And I realized that the fear essentially was, I'm afraid of that isolation. I'm afraid of being alone. And it's because I felt very much that way for an extended period of my life, when I think I probably needed some connection the most. And that really is the whole point of why I'm doing this. Well, one of the major points why I'm documenting this 365 days. The 365 days I'm doing a meditation for my own mental health as an experiment, because in the past it's really helped me, and it already is helping me this 21 days in. But I'm documenting it on YouTube because I hope that maybe one person, and it's all worth the effort to document it, if one single person watches one of these videos and feels courageous enough or empowered enough, or just feels less alone, that somebody else is going through or has gone through what they're currently going through, and that sort of gives them the momentum to talk to somebody in their life about what they're experiencing and get the help that they need. So yeah, it was interesting to go back to that today, and obviously a lot of intense emotion, a lot of tears that were tied up into that experience today. Very visceral feeling. So later in the day, I was watching a YouTube video, and I'm just going to pull it up right now. It's called Discovered Connection. And it was kind of ironic that it popped into my feed, and I started watching it because essentially it's this individual who is connecting with random strangers in interesting ways. He'll knock on somebody's door and offer to make them a meal, or he'll, buy somebody, random stranger, whatever their Christmas holiday wish is, that sort of thing. Random acts of kindness, I guess, but also connecting with people. And he had a video where he talked about his own struggles with mental health, and how he was trying to connect with people because he felt like he had difficulty connecting with people. And I could very much relate to that. And I think it actually ties into the fact that because of the experiences at younger age in my life, I really disconnected from myself in some ways. And that's, I think, why meditation is helpful for mental health. I think by going inward, it allows you to reconnect with yourself. It allows you to reconcile experiences in your mind, in your memory. It allows you to sort of consolidate and reframe experiences that have been difficult. And in some ways, it feels like at times I sort of partition off myself, my identity, my life. And it happened as a result of these experiences, and it was probably a protective mechanism of sorts, but now it feels maladaptive, and in order to live a more fulfilling life, I have to go back in some sense and reflect and sort of tear down the walls of the cage that, the walls once served as a protective bunker when I needed it, but now they serve as a cage. And so it's going back and tearing down those walls, or going inward and tearing down those walls, reconnecting with myself allows me to sort of experience a greater sense of wholeness and well-being and a better quality of life. So yeah, shout out to Discover Connection. The gentleman on that channel was courageous, I would say, to post about his challenges with mental health and why he had stopped posting for an extended period of time. I'll actually link to his channel if anyone wants to check it out. There's some pretty heartwarming videos on there. But yeah, I guess that's all I want to say today. In closing, if you're struggling with your mental health, I know what it's like. I know how it feels incredibly isolating, feels incredibly alone, and connecting with somebody, connecting with anybody, talking about it helps. It will help for sure. So if you are struggling with your mental health, anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, talk to somebody. It'll get better. You'll help yourself, and you'll help remove the stigma around mental health and the discussion of mental health. So thank you so much. Have a great day.